Merrick Garland poops his pants in public on live TV. Well, figuratively.
You're wondering about Jack Smith. Well, Jack Smith with a big development. The special counsel is in active talks with the Justice Department about how to end his federal prosecutions of President Trump.
And so does Jack Smith. Jack Smith just gets caught picking his nose, also on live TV, figuratively. Here's MSNBC with the good news. I'm John.
Yeah, Chris, it's not a surprise that these cases can't go forward when Donald Trump takes office.
The cases, all 5 of them, everything on him, other than the E. Jean Carroll one, I think, but they're all dropping him. Any undone case toward Trump immediately stops.
What's interesting here is that the DOJ is moving to end them even before he takes office, citing the long-standing DOJ policy that sitting presidents can't be prosecuted.
One of them, now that's DOJ Merrick Garland, saying, hey, he's a sitting president now. Well, he's not installed yet. Until the inauguration on January 20th, Garland, why are you calling Jack Smith off? I demand that you keep going on these lawsuits. You sellout, you chicken.
Jack Smith, but I thought your case was just so strong. Like you were just going to convict him and prosecute him and all this blah, 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 blah.
Especially when Jack Smith, one of them, half of the lawsuits in the January 6th case was arguing that Trump as a sitting president didn't have the immunity, which the Supreme Court said he had.
And there was some thought that maybe special counsel Jack Smith was going to sprint through the finish line, was going to work up until the last day, force Trump to fire him, wait till a new attorney general was appointed. But that does not appear to be the thinking inside the department.
Yeah, I know the thinking inside the department is, oh, crud.
But we knew there was another option, and that is that potentially the Biden Justice Department could try to resolve or wind down these cases before Trump takes office. Right now, I'm told they're in discussions, Jack Smith talking with top leaders at the Justice Department about exactly what this looks like. I'm told that Jack Smith is someone who understands that he has to follow whatever the rules and regulations of the Justice Department are. So at this point, they are looking for ways to wind this down.
They're coming for us next. We better look kind of reasonable and merciful. So we're going to dismiss all these charges. This is so insane. This is hilarious, by the way. First of all, everybody laugh with me at Jack Smith. This is like public nudity. I would rather be caught on camera publicly nude than be Jack Smith or Merrick Garland. They are so defrocked, so defenestrated, so defanged, so shamed.
The thinking is that these cases can't go forward. There's no reasonable prospect of getting to trial within the 3 months before Donald Trump takes office. These cases are mired in legal issues that would be appealed all the way to the Supreme Court had Donald Trump lost the election.
Elections have consequences. Had he lost the election, they would still be shopping for a Democrat judge to throw him in prison and a Democrat jury to throw him in prison. So he would be totally on the hook had he lost his election.
So now that he's won the election, DOJ officials are thinking that, look, there's just no room to move in these cases. And so the sensible thing to do is to figure out a way to wind them down. And it may stem from Donald Trump's lawyers filing some kind of motion or making a request saying, in light of the DOJ policy, you need to drop these cases.
No, double down on it. I hope Trump's legal team doubles down on it, stays in court.
But I do think that state sentencing will proceed on November 26th. The reason is the judge in that case, Juan Merchan, originally had scheduled the sentencing for September, which would have been before the election. And then in a somewhat surprising ruling, he said, actually, I don't want to do anything that might impact the election. Therefore, I'm going to put it off until after the election. So now impacting the election is no longer a concern. But this will be a surreal moment. We are going to have the president-elect, not just a former president, but now the president-elect going into a county-level court to receive his sentence. But I do want to stress this. No matter what the sentence is that Judge Merchan pronounces, if this goes ahead in a few weeks, it's almost entirely symbolic and formalistic. There is no way that the president-elect will be locked up.
Now it's time for them to tie up Merrick Garland in court for the rest of his life. Countersue him and Jack Smith. Get him disbarred. I want a guilty verdict on these guys. And now they're going, well, we can dismiss Trump, but he's the only one that we were after to affect the election. And now that he won, we don't need to go after Sidney Powell and we don't need to go after John Eastman. We don't care about that. Are you kidding? We don't care about his valet in the Mar-a-Lago case. If I was Trump, I would force them to continue those other lawsuits.
So that appeal may continue in some form, but the reality is that Donald Trump is not going to be a part of these cases. And what this means, I mean, we knew this, right? But just coming to grips with what this means intellectually is that Donald Trump is not likely to be held accountable on these very serious federal criminal charges.
Oh, yeah. Just like all people with federal criminal charges, we don't charge them. How about you're not charging him for these very serious charges because they're not very serious, that they know he didn't really do them? He said he should demand a public apology from Merrick Garland and Jack Smith, a public admittance of guilt that they politicized an election. And he should tell them flat out, I'll tell you what, I'll pardon you if you make a public statement that you politically persecuted me only to affect an election. And if you don't do that, I'm sending my Department of Justice after you, and it's going to be a massive lawsuit. Both of you guys are going to prison. You'll never see the light of day.
That many people believe were worse than what Richard Nixon did or was accused of doing in Watergate.
And by the way, Richard Nixon also mild compared to what Clinton did, compared to what Obama did, compared to what Biden did. Very mild by comparison. And the worst thing this guy can think of is it's considered much worse than Nixon. What Nixon did is nothing compared to what these other criminals do.
Now, there's no guarantee that Donald Trump would have been convicted at trial.
There would be a guarantee of him being convicted at trial if they had a Democrat, Barack Obama, Biden appointed judge. I guarantee you he would have been convicted at trial.
But as Joyce Vance, our legal commentator, said to me this morning, what's not going to happen is he's not going to face a jury of his peers who would evaluate the evidence and render a verdict.
He wouldn't have faced a jury of his peers anyways. He would have faced a jury of hardened Democrat donors like he did in Manhattan. He was going to be spared a jury of his peers anyways. There wouldn't be a single normal person averagely drawn from a normal state. They'd have all come from the jury pool in Washington, D.C., where 92% of their donations go to Democrats. And this I'm a comic book artist. I know more than this MSNBC kid. Child, just give up. Child, go do something else that's better within your purview, within your abilities. This legal analyst stuff, leave it to us comic book artists.
It's going to be lost to history whether a jury would have found him guilty of these very serious.
Yes, they would have found him guilty because they're Democrats. They wouldn't let him venue shop to have it retried down in Texas and presume him innocent. I'm John Mike Keene.